The Galactic Council Hall was filled with light, sound, and quiet pride from 100 powerful species. They sat in floating seats made of crystal and metal, watching the newest race stand alone at the center. That race was humanity. Earth's delegation looked small compared to the giants around them. Their ships were fewer, their technology looked simple, and their voices carried no threat. At the center of the hall, a human commander stood beside a hologram of Earth's first space combat prototype. The prototype was plain. It had no glowing weapons, no massive shields, and no strange alien energy fields. It looked slow, heavy, and outdated. For a moment, the hall was silent. Then laughter spread like fire. Some aliens clicked their jaws in amusement. Others released mocking sounds meant only for humans to hear. One tall armored species openly spoke, calling the human machine weak and useless. They said Earth had waited too long to join the war. They said humanity had misunderstood the scale of galactic conflict. They said this prototype would not survive even one real battle. The human commander did not argue. He did not raise his voice or defend the design. He simply listened, hands behind his back, eyes calm. When the laughter faded, the war began. The enemy fleet moved fast. Thousands of ships poured into human-controlled space. Earth's defenses responded, and the prototype units were deployed. At first, the aliens were right. Human ships were destroyed one by one. Defense lines collapsed, planets burned, and human fleets retreated. The Galactic Council watched the battle feeds with satisfaction. Some nodded, saying this was expected. Others stopped watching, already bored by humanity's failure. On Earth, cities went dark. Sirens echoed across continents. Families hid underground while the sky burned above them. Human commanders sent report after report. Losses were heavy. Resources were running out. The prototype fought bravely but could not turn the tide. Enemy weapons tore through human armor. Every victory cost humanity too much. The galaxy declared the battle decided. Humanity was labeled defeated. The laughter returned, louder than before. But in a quiet command room far from the front lines, something changed. Deep beneath Earth's surface, behind doors that had not been opened for centuries, human leaders gathered. No cameras recorded this meeting. No alien spies knew it was happening. A single screen lit up the dark room. On it was a symbol no current database could explain. An ancient mark from humanity's earliest days among the stars. The commander from the council stood there again. His calm voice carried weight now. He spoke only one sentence. We have reached the final threshold. Some leaders hesitated. Others closed their eyes, knowing the cost. All of them understood the risk. This was not a weapon. This was not technology. This was a call. Far beyond known space, a signal was sent. It did not use normal communication channels. It was old, simple, and dangerous. The galaxy did not notice at first. The enemy continued their advance, confident and careless. The council prepared to announce humanity's extinction. But somewhere in the deep dark between stars, something heard the call. Something ancient stirred. Something the universe had worked very hard to forget. And for the first time since the war began, humanity stopped retreating. And waited. The waiting was worse than the fighting. Human fleets drifted in damaged formations near the edge of their own system. Engines were silent, weapons overheated, and crews were exhausted. Enemy ships moved freely through former human space. They did not rush anymore. They hunted slowly, enjoying the collapse of a young species. Across the galaxy, the Council broadcast a single message. Humanity had failed. Earth was no longer considered a military power. Many alien worlds turned away. Some felt disappointment. Most felt relief. On Earth, the skies burned every night. Defense cannons fired until their barrels cracked. Cities became shelters, and shelters became graves. The prototype units returned in pieces. Pilots stepped out shaking, burned, and silent. They had fought with everything they had, and it had not been enough. In the enemy command ships, laughter echoed again. Human technology was studied like a curiosity, a mistake that would soon be erased. The enemy leaders spoke openly now. They planned how to divide Earth's resources. They argued over who would take the planet once humans were gone. Human command received the reports without comment. Loss numbers rose every hour. Entire fleets vanished from sensors. Some officers begged for surrender talks. Others demanded one final charge. But the highest command said nothing. Deep underground, the sealed chamber remained active. The ancient signal continued to pulse into the dark. Each cycle slower than the last. Time was running out. In a hidden bunker, the same human commander stood before a group of leaders. Their faces showed age, fear, and exhaustion. No one pretended anymore. A historian spoke quietly. She reminded them why the archives were sealed. Why the signal had never been used before. Long ago, before humanity joined the galaxy, they had met something in the void. Not a nation, not an empire. It was a species older than most stars. A species that did not build cities. A species that ended wars by removing entire civilizations. The galaxy had feared them. So it erased them from records. Legends were labeled myths. Humanity did not fight them. Humanity listened. And in doing so, survived. The rule had been simple. The species would never fight for power. They would only answer when humanity stood at the edge of extinction. Now that edge was close. Above Earth, the enemy prepared their final strike. A massive fleet gathered in orbit. Weapons charged, shields aligned. The Galactic Council scheduled a final broadcast. They would announce the fall of Earth. They would record the end of humanity. Human cities prepared for impact. Evacuation was impossible. There was nowhere left to run. In the bunker, the ancient signal weakened. Its energy source began to fail. Some leaders believed no one would answer. Then every human sensor changed at once. Deep space readings spiked without warning. Distances collapsed into impossible numbers. Reality itself seemed to bend. Enemy ships paused. Their commanders confused and suddenly silent. Scanners returned errors they had no words for. On Earth, the commander looked up at the screen. For the first time, his calm expression changed. Not fear. Relief. Because the signal had been heard. And something was coming. The first sign was silence. Across the battlefield, weapons stopped firing. Enemy fleets froze in place as if time itself had hesitated. Sensors screamed across every command ship. Readings made no sense. Distances folded. Signals arrived before they were sent. From the deep black beyond known space, shapes began to appear. Not ships, not stations, not anything built by hands. They looked like moving shadows wrapped in faint starlight. Alien commanders demanded answers. Their officers could give none. Every known scan failed. Every database returned nothing. Old veterans felt fear without knowing why. Young officers felt it stronger. Instinct screamed where logic failed. On Earth, human command watched in complete silence. No one spoke. No one needed to. The ancient signal finally went quiet. Its purpose fulfilled. Its message delivered. The shadows moved closer. As they did, enemy shields flickered and died. Weapons shut down without damage, simply refusing to work. Panic spread through the attacking fleets. Orders were shouted, then repeated, then ignored. Nothing responded. In the Galactic Council Hall, emergency alarms rang for the first time in centuries. Records searched themselves. Forbidden archives unlocked under pressure. Ancient files resurfaced, marked with warnings older than most civilizations. One phrase appeared again and again. Do not engage. Council members began to remember. Stories told once, then erased. A species that did not conquer, but ended. They had no territory. They claimed no worlds. They removed threats. The shadows stopped just outside weapon range. If weapon range still meant anything. Then a voice entered every channel at once. It was calm. It was deep. It carried no emotion. Humanity has reached the threshold. Every species heard it in their own language. Every meaning was clear. Every fear was justified. The voice continued. We were called. Enemy commanders tried to speak. Their words failed to transmit. Their authority meant nothing now. On Earth, the human commander stood straight. He did not bow. He did not beg. He spoke into the open channel. His voice steady despite the moment. Humanity stands. There was a pause. Not delay, but judgment. Then the voice answered. Confirmed. The shadows moved. No battle formations. No warning shots. Entire enemy ships vanished. Not exploded, not destroyed. Simply gone. Fleets that had once darkened the stars were erased in seconds. Command ships disappeared first. Then carriers, then escorts. The galaxy watched in terror. No defense activated. No escape succeeded. This was not war. This was correction. The Council tried to issue a cease order. The voice answered before they finished speaking. Conflict resolved. The remaining enemy ships powered down on their own. Crews frozen by fear. Victory had never felt so final. Then the shadows turned slightly. Not toward the defeated fleets, but toward the watching galaxy. Let this be remembered, the voice said. Humanity was not saved. A pause followed, heavy and absolute. Humanity was acknowledged. With that, the shadows began to fade, pulling back into the dark they came from, leaving silence behind. On Earth, people watched the skies clear. Fires died. Sirens stopped. The human commander lowered his head for a moment. Not in relief, but in respect. Because the universe now remembered what it had tried to forget. And nothing would ever laugh at humanity again. Silence ruled the stars after the shadows vanished. No explosions followed. No victory cheers echoed. Across enemy fleets, systems slowly came back online. But no one moved. Fear held every command frozen. The Galactic Council Hall was no longer proud or loud. Leaders who once laughed now sat still. Their displays replayed the same impossible moments again and again. Entire armadas erased without resistance. Power beyond strategy. Force beyond understanding. Council members whispered old names. Then stopped, afraid even that might be too much. Some realized their records had never been wrong, only incomplete. On Earth, emergency status slowly ended. Skies cleared as fires burned out. People stepped into the light, unsure if the danger had truly passed. Human fleets regrouped. Damaged ships returned to orbit. Pilots looked at each other in disbelief. The prototype units, once mocked, now stood among wreckage. Scarred but standing. Proof that humanity had endured long enough. Alien governments rushed to send messages. Not threats. Not demands. Apologies. Words that had never been spoken to humans before. Requests for ceasefire. Offers of peace and alliance. The same council that had declared humanity defeated now changed its tone. Emergency sessions were called. Old votes were overturned. They spoke carefully now. Measured every word. Afraid of provoking what they could not fight. One council elder finally addressed the galaxy. His voice low and honest. We misunderstood humanity. He admitted their mistake. They thought humans were weak because they chose patience. They mistook restraint for fear. On Earth, the human commander listened without reaction. Praise did not move him. Victory had come at too high a cost. Reconstruction began immediately. Cities were rebuilt. Shipyards worked without rest. The prototype was upgraded using lessons written in blood. Not abandoned. Perfected. Human engineers did not chase alien power. They refined their own designs. Simple, reliable, deadly. Across the galaxy, fear reshaped politics. Borders shifted without war. Aggressors suddenly remembered diplomacy. No one laughed at humanity anymore. Their name carried weight. Their silence carried more. In the shadows between stars, nothing moved. But everyone felt they were being watched. Not threatened. Observed. The universe had learned a lesson it would not forget. Humanity did not rise by force alone, but by endurance. And those who laughed first now spoke humanity's name with care. The war did not end with celebrations. There were no parades across Earth. Only quiet rebuilding and long memories. Human cities rose again from ash and steel. Not stronger in appearance, but wiser in purpose. Shipyards expanded in orbit. New fleets took shape slowly and carefully. Each design tested, refined, and trusted. The prototype that had once been mocked became the foundation. Not a symbol of weakness, but of survival. The Galactic Council sent official envoys to Earth. They did not arrive with guards. They arrived with respect. Old treaties were rewritten. New alliances formed. Humanity was no longer an outsider. In private meetings, council leaders asked the question they feared most. Who had answered humanity's call? And would they return? Human leaders gave no detailed answers. Some truths were not meant to be shared. Some protections worked best in silence. Across the galaxy, conflict slowed. Rising empires chose caution over conquest. Predators learned to look elsewhere. Human trade ships traveled safely through space once hostile. Their flags recognized. Their presence accepted. Time passed. Scars faded but never disappeared. Memorials stood where cities had fallen. Children grew up hearing stories of the war. Not as tales of glory, but as warnings. The human commander, older now, walked alone through a rebuilt command hall. The walls were new. The memories were not. A single console remained unchanged. The one used to send the ancient signal. It was powered down, sealed. He placed a hand on it. Not in fear, but in gratitude. Because he understood the truth. Humanity had not been saved by monsters. Humanity had been trusted. Far beyond the reach of maps, something watched quietly. Not as a guardian. Not as a ruler. But as a witness. No message was sent. No signal returned. None was needed. Humanity had proven its place. Not through domination, but through resilience. The galaxy would remember this era as a turning point. The moment laughter died, and respect was born. Because when humanity stood alone against the dark, they endured, and the universe answered.